Well, hello there. How you going today? Thanks for joining me. My name's Campbell. This is Autodidactic, and it's time to take another wander through the strange realm we find ourselves in.
Why is it coming out in the news that the U.S. Forest Service is actively hiding portals in the forest? I'll add more validity to his claim in just 1 minute. Right before I let you hear this, why is it there's so many places that we just cannot go? And these places seem to have some weird phenomenon happening in the sky and around it and disappearances.
But just one thing I want to throw out here, and I want to cause a bit of mischief with the US government. I've just been somewhere in the United States where I know there is another portal. And I know the United States knows about it. And I was there just the other day. And guess what? It's got a big fence around it, lots of security signs. It's supposedly US Forest Service.
Pretty odd, right? Hey, do you remember when this guy was making portals in his bed, going through them, and they ended up on YouTube, and the guy went actually missing and never found? That's well. Hey, one time I was at a national park with my brother and my now wife, and we were sitting outside of the woods, and we saw this orb coming up out of the woods. And as it floated higher and higher, it was dropping orbs, super big orbs, out of under it. And then this orb started going right towards us, and when it went over the top of the car, it turned into a triangle for a split second and was gone.
You must have been under the influence.
Yeah, so about that, we all saw it at the same exact time. And I remember before going into the woods saying, something does not feel right. I'm not alone. There's a lot of people who have seen these really sketchy occurrences in the woods. You too? Tell me.
Portals. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about portals in the last couple of years, hasn't there? It's sort of come into the zeitgeist, because we didn't really used to talk about portals that much. Obviously, Stargates, the movie Stargate, all about portals. Then we had these portals put in cities. Remember those? And they were like big TV screens, and you could look through and see into another city. And then, of course, energetic portals, CERN, all this kind of stuff. So are portals real? What do you think? Do you think that they're real? Do you think that this is, just a conspiracy theory, something for us to focus on? Because they were talking about them being in national parks. And if you look at the figures of people that go missing in national parks, it's crazy. Like so many, like tens of thousands every year just disappear without a trace. So what is that? What is a portal? Do they exist here? Are they ways that, you can get around this realm quicker? Like, are they some kind of tech, do you think, from the old world or a previous civilization? Or are they some kind of natural wormhole that you can just jump through and instantly be somewhere else? I don't know. I haven't really, researched portals too much. I've never been through one. Have you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are portals and what do you know about them?
The reason for it was they don't want us to know that how we live now is quite primitive, really. I mean, we think that this technology we're using right now is fantastic. And imagine our ancestors having something like this where we could talk as we're doing now without being in the same room, or sit on a beach and watch a film and do our shopping and our banking. But it's not good technology because of the damage, because of the screen time, because of the way the screen's designed, because of the dopamine hit we get from, doom scrolling and getting quick information, but not really taking it in. The technology they had before was way better than that. But what they wanted to do was show a very slow evolution with regard to our technology. So it's gradual. We start off with fire, and then we've got the wheel, and then we have, commerce. We become farmers. And then very slowly we enter the Industrial Revolution, and then we suddenly develop and discover electricity, So by bolting on a period of time, actually 800 years, and calling it the Dark Ages, where nothing happened, we've got this slow evolution. You can see how we've slowly progressed. If we remove those 800 years, then we appear to have, if we follow academia, we appear to have gone from literally defecating in a bucket and throwing it into the street to having electricity within a very, very short period of time. So that's why they did it. They wanted to show a sort of a progression, because they didn't want anyone to find out that actually we were way more advanced before, and the technology we had, which was working with frequency and vibration, cymatics and so on, and harnessing energy using the ether and the Earth's electromagnetic grid, they don't want us to be aware that that's a possibility. So it was really that was the purpose of it. They invented fictitious figures, events that never took place, and this is quite well evidenced. You'll probably find most people, if they go into an old cathedral or an old church, they'll probably find a plaque or a tomb somewhere that has J as the first number. And they'll be told that that's how they used to write ones. But often those dates have a 1 in them as well. So you can see straight away that that isn't the case. The J stands for the millennial reign of Christ. 1,000-year period of peace where everything is built by the angels. And by angels, people of a far higher frequency and level of intelligence to us. People that came down from the sky. So not literal angels. But it's also on books. I've seen pottery with it on, with the J as the first letter, and buildings too. And in my first book, I actually put a couple of photographs in there. One building's in Omar, here in Britain, and it's now, believe it or not, an auto electrical company. They forgot to go and add the 1 to the date, so it says 789.
There you go. That was Guy Anderson. He has written a couple of books now, 3, Tessa and the Cabbage Patch Kids. And yes, he's a good friend. I've got many interviews on my main channel, Autodidactic, with him, so go and check them out. But yeah, the missing 1,000 years, this all comes from Anatoly Fomenko's research, where he was basically researching the eclipses and, phenomenon in the sky, and worked out that they didn't sync up with the dates, because now there's computer programs you can use to see what the sky was like at any date, right? So he did that, and it didn't add up. So he started digging, and he found out that if you take away about 1,000 years, it all suddenly lines up again. And then we do have all these pictures, books, gravestones, buildings with I's or J's in the front of the date. So like I-901, right? And this is what Guy was saying, is that basically means in the year of our Lord, Iusa, which is Jesus, and that's how they used to write it, right? This many, 900 years after Christ, basically, right? Kind of like we do with the AD. But the millennial reign of Christ, do you believe in the millennial reign of Christ? I've, definitely looked into the theory. It's not something that I, think definitely happened, mainly because of all the religious connotations. It's all about, God and Jesus and angels, but what does that mean? What are angels? Where did they come from? I don't believe anything comes from space, because I don't believe in space. So as far as beings coming down, don't know. Angels, right? Anglos, angels, Anglos, Anglo-Saxons. Is there a tie there? I don't know, maybe. But I believe that's just basically a time of high technology. And like you were saying at the start, all the tech we have today is built to weaken us, to make us more controllable, right? It's not good. Like all these, 5G frequencies going around, like staring into the screen. It's not good for your circadian rhythms. The colors are all wrong for our bodies to interpret. And the way it's set up with social media, doom scrolling, all this kind of stuff, it's clearly not healthy for us. I mean, just look around. We are a population that is getting sicker, right? We're not getting healthier. We're being run down. Things are getting worse for people. People's lifestyle, it's getting worse. It's not getting better, right, at the moment. And that's because of all the way that the technology is made. But in the old world, Tartaria, if you want to call it that, It was all earth-based energies, ether-based energies, frequencies that help us, that empower us, right? Rather than all of these frequencies that take away our power and give it to those that many people vote into power, right? It's all about the power. Where are you getting your power source from? Is it from this created fake 2D world, right? Created with the false light electricity and run by psychos? Or do you get your power from the earth, from grounding, from sun gazing, from sitting in the forests, right? And just being, because I think that's a much better place to be empowered by, right? But let me know your thoughts on it.
Ukraine is unable right now to export a lot of what is growing in the local economy, but the global economy, and certainly exacerbating hunger in places that are in great need of food.
Oh, we had some extremely strong women there. Yeah, it's all fake, right? And I've said this a lot. The news is fake. We cannot trust the screen and what they're telling us, because the one thing we know about the media is that they lie. That's the one thing we can prove for sure, right? So we really have to take everything with a grain of salt. And yes, that includes the war. But we just don't know. It's a story that they want us to believe. But that was crazy, right? They're showing an old world building destruction, and it turns out to be foam by the looks of it, right? Spray painted foam, right? And we've seen this so many times where they show us these clips and they're just completely fake. They have nothing to do with reality. It's just all made up stories to get us to believe what they want us to believe, for us to believe their version of events. And of course, when we do believe their version of events, we help create it, because we're the creators. They are not creative. They can't create, right? They are soulless beings. And you can call them whatever you want. Demons, psychos, clones. I mean, it doesn't matter, but they are not us, right? And this is all they do, is manipulate, change the stories, invert the stories, because that's all they can do. They can take our creation and they can mix it all up, right? But they can't actually create anything. That's why AI has spent its time trolling the internet to get all the information that we put on there, that the men and women, and then it just jumbles it all up and spits it back at us. That's the game. That's what the elites are doing. So it's a fake reality, the 2D world. Again, get out in nature where it's real. Touch a tree, have a real conversation, earth yourself on the ground. That's real. That's something that's tangible that we can prove, unlike most things in the 2D world.
The organic label is a marketing tool. It is something that I think consumers want. It is not a statement by the government about food safety.
So, guys, this is a really great question right here, and I wanted to address it. Those of you who don't know, it's not your fault. You're not a farmer, so you wouldn't know this. But people who farm and work with produce, such as myself and others, we know this. So that's why I never said in the video, you need to do organic. Organic is a bit of a myth. And let me tell you why. Years ago, I used to farm on a papaya orchard in Hawaii. And we raised organic, non-GMO, real produce papaya on that farm. So what happened was, about 10 miles down from our farm, Monsanto Corporation purchased a papaya orchard. And on their papaya orchard, they were growing non-organic, genetically modified hybrid papaya. So during the harvest season, when we would certify our papaya as organic, something very strange happened. We started to get in our farm, some of our produce was showing up non-organic and hybrid. And the reason why is because even though that Monsanto farm was 10 miles away from our organic farm, the seeds were blowing downwind and cross-pollinating our papaya. Okay? And this happens all the time. That's why if you have an organic farm or orchard and you're near Monsanto or another farm that's doing hybrid, you have to protect your trees. There's no way you can stop it. There's really no way you can do it. Either the wind's going to blow that genetically modified hybrid pollen down to your organic farm, or the birds and other animals are going to carry that contaminated pollen to your orchard.
Organic, I mean, it's a crazy term to use for food, right? because by default, everything is organic. Everything has come from the earth. So all of this genetically modified, crap they're trying to put in, it's really, it's destroying the creation, if you want to put it that way. It's messing with nature, trying to make everything artificial, which is what they do, and then they want to feed it to us. So, the whole organic thing, we can't even tell if these crops are non-genetically modified, non-sprayed, right, with glyphosate and all this kind of crap. We just don't know anymore because, like you said, Monsanto are out there doing their stuff. They're spraying everything. They're letting the seeds fly around, and it's affecting other farms, right, miles and miles away. But, is organic what we want? I mean, everything should be organic. Things that are not organic are what should be labeled, in my opinion. They should be labeled genetically modified, not organic. That's the natural food should just be natural, right? And then we have, is organic the way to go? Do we want more, there's regenerative, right? Which is a label you can get if you're actually looking after the land. It's organic as well, but you're actually looking after the land as well and rebuilding it and making room for animals and the natural environment and growing that. It's regenerative food. But I was talking with a friend the other day and we were saying, well, maybe what we need is a label that says no human DNA, right? That would be helpful. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this whole organic thing and the fact that, organics is twice as much as everything else? Do you think it's real? Do you think it's good? Or do you think we need to have another look at the food source that we have? Because to me, it seems that most of it, especially at this point, is just fake. It's just created. It's got nothing to do with food anymore.
These are all different types of devices in which can be built to counter the modification that takes place on a daily basis. And this was Trevor James Constable and Wilhelm Reich, who were creating the Cloudbuster to counter the weather modification that's taking place in our skies. And it's interesting because Trevor James Constable worked for the U.S. Navy and also got rid of all the smog in California using these devices. Okay? So California knows how to clean up the skies. Isn't that funny? This guy worked for the U.S. Navy and also informed the state of California how to clean up the skies and get rid of all the smog using devices like this. And these devices here were just synced up to a running water source. And what they would do is they would change the etheric fields and the etheric waves of the earth. So the ether is moving all the time throughout the earth. And what they would do is they would dam up the ether. That's what Trevor James Constable would do over here, so that it would begin to rain. Or you can also make plants grow faster and clear up the areas of all the smog and pollution and toxins and chemicals that they would put up in the sky.
Fake weather. Is anything real in this strange realm? Crazy. Cloudbusters. That was basically a cloudbuster. I haven't heard that guy's name before. It's normally like William Reich and people like this. Have you got a cloudbuster? Have you tried it? You can also use orgonite. It's obviously it's not as targeted, not as specific, but yeah, I've got some cloudbusters and lots of all that kind of stuff. And the energy around me is pretty cool, pretty clear. But I must say I haven't, because we don't have a yard where I'm living, and we've just got a balcony and we're surrounded by trees. So I haven't actually got out with my cloudbuster and properly aimed it at a cloudy day. But I definitely need to get onto that. And see, because if we all did this and we all had cloudbusters and we all got out every day and turned them on, then we control the weather, right? Or at least we give it back to the earth to control, right? We get rid of all this fake crap, and would that get rid of all the chemicals, or at least help, right? That they're spraying in chemtrails and stuff. It might do if he was getting rid of smog, because smog comes from smoke and fog, right? Smog, so it's basically dirty fog, right? It's fog with particles and stuff we don't want in it. So he was getting rid of that, right? So he was getting rid of the bad stuff as well. So I really think we need to get onto these cloudbusters and this kind of technology and start claiming back our skies, right, from the parasites. Let's get this back, as I don't think we've ever known natural weather in our lifetimes. It's always been manipulated. They've had this tech, the weather altering tech, since at least World War II, at least. But let me know, what do you think? Have you tried a cloudbuster? Do they work? Let me know in the comments.
Okay guys, major breaking news. This war has now officially entered Asia. We're unlocking new parts of this map every day, so 140 people are currently missing after a US submarine has sunk an Iranian Navy ship with a torpedo in international waters off the coast of Sri Lanka. Now, important detail, this is the first time that America has sunk an enemy ship using a torpedo since World War II. And if you guys are wondering where Sri Lanka is, here. This is the Indian Ocean. Everything that's usually been happening, kind of the war zone of 3,000 miles, is about here. Now, we're entering this territory. Ain't no way. Now, this was confirmed by the U.S. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, saying that America is winning decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy. 180 people were reportedly on this boat, ship. It's not a boat. And so far, 32 people have been rescued, with 140 more currently missing. I think we kind of get the point of what's happened to them. I'll keep you guys updated as we know more.
I can't believe it was 32 missing and not 33. Wow, Sri Lanka. That's a long way from Iran and where this war is supposed to be going. And, he said, the US currently winning this war. Does anyone win a war? Apart from the bankers, of course. It's crap. And this is completely scripted, this whole war. They've been pushing this for a long time, trying to get it going. And they're still pushing, trying to turn it into a full-blown war. But we, the people, we need to agree. Right, because basically we're the ones who are the cannon fodder, right, who have to go off and fight these wars. Well, that's what they expect. So it can't happen if everyone's against it and says no. And that's really, where we are, right? I mean, that they own all the weapons, unfortunately. So the best thing we can do is imagine a better future and not get fearful and scared and replay the thoughts that they give us and create what they want. I think this is where we are at the moment. That's my best advice at the moment, is to just not get involved, to keep going down your road and to keep creating the world that you want to inhabit, right? Buckminster Fuller said, when you want to create something new, don't try and tear the old system down, focus on what you want to create. So don't give your attention to what you don't want. Don't give your attention to the news and the war and get emotionally attached and all depressed about what's going on in the world, because, like I said before, we can't prove, really, unless we're there, we can't prove that any of this is true, right? I mean, I'm not saying nothing is happening. I'm sure stuff is happening, and I think it's horrible, right? And obviously, my heart goes out to everyone who's involved in this, but they always embellish, at the very least, they embellish the stories, right? They build them up, and then they build a narrative around it, and it's always us against them, and we're the brave, sheriff of the world, USA, and we're coming in to save you all. But most people in the USA don't want this, because all war equals, for people who get involved, is death of family members and friends, and destruction of cities, towns, infrastructure, and economies. So it's very bad for the people, but the bankers make a fortune off it.
I mean, this is the victim mentality. The whole world is against us. We just want to be a peaceful country. The reality is, it's not the position of the Iranian government that their border should be expanded. It's the position of the Israeli government that their border should be radically expanded, including into places and in ways that the United States government for decades under both Democratic and Republican leadership has said is a direct threat to American interests. Settlements in the West Bank, annexing the West Bank, moving into Gaza, bombing Lebanon, expanding into Lebanon. This is the fanatical, expansionist, nuclear-armed, dangerous power in the Middle East that the United States pays for, that American soldiers die for. And this narrative used to be dominant in the West, but people have seen the true face of Israel and U.S. support for Israel over the past couple of years. And you see it in polling, not just in the United States, but around the world, that people see Israel and increasingly the United States as the rogue countries that are the true danger to the world. As an American, I wish that weren't true. I'm doing everything possible in my power to change it. A lot of other people are as well, but that is the reality for.
Man, we're in the apocalypse, right? The veil has been lifted. We can see what's going on and what's always been going on behind the scenes. and the I country are behind it all. They just are, and this is not against a certain people or anything. It's just factual. You can research this back hundreds of years, and it's always been the same people at the top controlling everything, right? And driving us down this pathway into a completely policed society where we are controlled by technology. And now, as Klaus told us, you'll own nothing and be happy. Like, you can't even buy computer programs anymore, right? It's all monthly. You've got to pay monthly subscriptions for everything, right? And it's always the same people at the top of the banks, of the entertainment industry, of the education industry, music, the arts, food. It's all the same people. And let's just call them Ashkenazis, right? Because that's the truth. They are not the true Israelites, right? That they have taken on that persona, because this is what they do. They steal people's identities, and then they trade under them. They create debt. They lie. They don't pay their debts back, and they just consolidate, and then they blackmail people, which we're seeing coming out in the E-files, right? The E-files of P-files, if you know what I mean. Always the same. All right. So, where there's smoke 1,000 times, there's definitely fire. So, yeah, if you haven't looked into it, look into it. But people are definitely waking up, and this rhetoric is going, worldwide at the moment, right? People are finally seeing that these are the people that are controlling it and manipulating us at the top are the I people, right? The small hats, and they're all Elites, right? The people of El, the Canaanites who worship Baal, right? Like it's all out there to be discovered. So, this is not a racial thing or anything like that. It's just, they're the facts, man. This is what's actually happening. So I think it's good. People are waking up, and we can now see our common enemy, right? And it's not your neighbor. It's not some dude who's in a country being bombed, right? Or someone of a different religion. That's not your enemy. That's your fellow man. The enemy are the ones at the top pulling the strings.
Yes, the left is losing ground, but what do? They're not stupid. They import new voters. We cannot sleep on that fact, because we can say, okay, the native white populations of Europe, they're all becoming more and more right-wing. They hear all these idiots. We're waking up to it. We know they're not 73 genders. Okay. That worked maybe in 2018, but not anymore. All of that's true, but the left's not sleeping. They're importing their voters in really large numbers. So we can talk about freedom of expression all we want, but democracy, 51%, and, we're voted out. If soon you're no longer a majority in your own country, how will democracy work for you then? So that's why I will end on two notes. What we need, the abolishment of the EU, and the second one, remigration.
Yeah, the EU definitely didn't work, right? That's destroyed so many countries. And the EU is part of their plan. Again, you can read all this, find all this info online. And this is what the Don is doing with America, right? He's trying to create the North American Union, right? So we've got the European Union. He wants the North American Union, which is the USA, Canada, Greenland, Mexico, right? All these countries that stuff's been happening in, and Trump's literally been telling us he wants to take them over. This is part of the encroachment of the Allies and their new world order. And of course, immigration. They're flooding countries all throughout Europe. Australia, it's happening, Canada, US, right? All Caucasian countries are being flooded. And why is that? One is it's to create division, right? And drive up prices and all this, and get us blaming each other, blaming our neighbors, and fighting amongst ourselves while they go off and do what they want. And two is, because then they're literally changing the population, right? So they can get different things done. Like, there's literally populations in Europe now that are saying they will be bringing in Sharia law. And these populations that are brought in, they're having 10 kids to our one, or more even, right? So they will literally be the dominant peoples in these countries in a generation. And this is another way to take control of countries and yeah, do with what they want to them, right? And enforce what kind of, whatever kind of world they want. They just change all the people. And then they get us to fight amongst ourselves. Then they start a war, and it's all about Depop in the end, right? So there's less of us to control. That's what they want. They want to be kings on earth, right? They are the false gods of false light. But they want to live like kings and for us to be their slaves. That's, in my opinion, is the end game. But of course, don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything you've heard on these videos. It's all just information for you to gather, get more reference points. And as you get more information, you'll get a better perspective. You'll come to conclusions, right? Things will become more right or more wrong in your mind, at least, right? And that's the other thing is your opinion does not have to match anyone else's opinion. People don't have to agree with you. Right? You don't need validation from the outside world that your thoughts and your perspectives are valid, because they're always valid, because they're yours. But there we go, guys. Another one done. I hope you enjoyed that one. Please do leave me your comments. Give me a like if you've enjoyed this video, and share it around. Hype it up if you have the means. And most of all, stay awesome, because you are. And I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
Oh, God, I love it, but... Put the goat down! Drop the goat! Oh my gosh. What is wrong with you? Dude!
Solamente en Cristo.
En Cristo, solamente en Él, la salvación.
Eso. Mira. Toma. Pero muchacho.